Hey everyone, before we get into the video today, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, if you like what you're seeing, there are various links inside the description of other content that we have both on YouTube and outside of YouTube. Today, we're going to talk about your maximum wealth potential. So the approach we take with clients at Paradigm Life is to optimize their finances in a way that gives them the maximum amount of upside with the least amount of downside. And we do this because our end objective for clients is to optimize finances in a way that allows them to live a fulfilling life along the way and also prepare to be financially independent in the future. This is a calculator by Truth Concepts that's an excellent demonstration of how what I had just said plays out in real life. So this is a mock set of circumstances. If you'd like to see what your life looks like on here, you can contact us. Links are in the description. So let's go ahead and bring my calculator over, and I'm going to use a 45-year demonstration. I'm going to take a circumstance of a person just graduating from grad school. According to payscale.com, they are making an average of $100,000 per year. So if you look at a 25-year-old earning $100,000 a year for 45 years, that comes out to be $4.5 million. Pretty simple. Now let's add a few details which are relevant in daily life. First is income increase. So cost of living increase is typically 3% for the average American. And then we're also going to add a net earnings rate. Now this is an important rate because all money has a cost. If it's not spent, it can be saved. If it can be saved, it can earn interest. So in economics, there is something called opportunity cost, and it's the measurement of what money could have earned had it done something else versus what it was, what it ended up doing. As a person is making money, they're spending it, but you can measure what the cost is of that spending. So I'll put in here 1%. Interest rates are still relatively low. Okay, this shows you that over the course of time, instead of the money becoming $4.5 million, it ends up being $11.2 million. So the second thing we're going to talk about is now the expenses of living in a modern society. We go and work the way that we do to support a lifestyle, but that lifestyle has expenses. The first expense, unfortunately, is taxes. Taxes exist on everything. You have income taxes, state and federal. You have employment taxes, Medicare, Social Security. You also have property taxes, sales taxes, gasoline taxes, utility taxes, the list goes on and on. I'm going to use a factor here that is reasonable, somewhat conservative, that 35% of all the money we make goes to some form of tax. So what this shows you is that over the course of time, just because we have to pay tax, our overall wealth would have been 11.2 million, but now it's eroded to $7.2 million. And that's one because of the actual cost of the taxes, but also the interest that could have been earned. So the total loss is about $4 million. Now let's go to debt payments. Today, we finance all big purchases, education, homes, cars, etc. Credit cards are typically used for bigger, unexpected purchases, sometimes expected purchases. So banks, when they're qualifying people for a mortgage, they usually use the factor of 30% to 35% to determine how much you can afford. So in this case, we're going to put 30% as far as debt is concerned. Here we see that what would have been 11.2 million, which is that maximum amount of wealth because of taxes, and so money going to the government and then money going to banks, which makes up, in this case, 65%. Okay, it whittles our money down to about 4 million. This is before we get to spend any of our paycheck. Now you go to lifestyle. So in lifestyle is the money that you can spend. We're going to put 25% in there. So now we see that our wealth is whittled by about $10 million because of these three factors, which ends up giving a 10% savings rate, 10% earning 1% over the course of 45 years, ends up being that $1.1 million. So this is how it plays out in this scenario. Now, if you want to increase this end result, there are a number of ways that you can look at the different aspects of personal finance. Again, income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. Now, one approach, which is usually the approach of those in the financial services world, is to say of the 10% that you're making, you can earn a higher rate of return than 1%. So let's go and put, let's say, an 8% return over the course of 45 years. Okay. Looking at the approach we take, the idea is to optimize these areas of financial life, giving the highest amount of upside with the least amount of downside. This is a risky move where you're trying to increase this end result by taking high risks. But this is usually the approach because no one wants to spend less money. So $6 million, again, is that benchmark. We'll actually be a little bit more aggressive and say $10 million. Or sorry, 10%. So of the 10% that's being saved, invested, if you're earning a 10% compounded return over the course of 45 years, that ends up being $10.8 million. Okay. All right. Now the approach that we take, and I'm going to demonstrate it here, is going to obviously give maximum upside with just a couple of moves, not all the different moves or micro strategies that we have, but just a couple of them. It gives the maximum amount of upside with the least amount of risk. So the first thing that we do is, we understand that 1% is not a reasonable savings rate. One of our core financial strategies and financial products is what's called a wealth maximization account. It is a life insurance policy designed for the maximum amount of cash, and it gives one of the best, I would say, rates of return given the amount of certainty that's out there. So right now we'll put 5% as what it could potentially earn over the course of this 45-year time frame. That boosts us from 1.1 to 2.7. So that's one move that you can make. Now, one of the things with the wealth maximization account is it comes with a guaranteed line of credit with an incredibly low interest rate. And one of the strategies that we teach clients is to use that loan to finance big purchases, which helps you to avoid high interest charges. So we're going to go ahead and reduce a debt payment here by about to 25%. Okay, and that boosts the wealth a little bit more. Again, these are boosts without much risk whatsoever. And then the last move that I'll talk about, and then really get into just a couple of comments about financial independence. This next move is something I wrote about in the book I came out with in 2018, which is pursuing a meaningful career and investing in yourself to learn what that meaningful career is, and then also how you can do that career or essentially evolve your career, grow your career to a point where life comes first and work comes second, whether that's being a freelancer, a contractor, a solopreneur. There's a host of different opportunities. Well, let me say this. There were a host of opportunities in 2018 when the book came out. Now, because of what happened in 2020, the opportunities are literally infinite to find a career in which you can design your life around the career as opposed to the other way around, which is typically the case with how people approach employment. So what we're going to say here is on an annual basis, because of the liquidity available with the wealth maximization account, you could essentially take these micro loans and make investments in your education, make investments in your training, in your certifications, hosts of different ways in which you can improve the way in which you produce value in the marketplace, whether it's learning marketing, whether it's learning leadership, whether it's learning sales, hosts of different opportunities in all different industries. So let's say that you were able to make an investment in your education every single year and be able to increase your income, let's just say by, instead of 3%, 6%. I'm gonna go here and put this down to 3. Okay. So just that move alone, just by that focus, you can boost your wealth to $18.9 million. Okay. This focus is not necessarily something that is always available, because most savings just earns interest and is only doing that. Therefore, it's not accessible to use making investments in yourself. That's why the wealth maximization account is powerful, because it grows, it earns compound wealth over the course of time, but you can borrow against it in order to make investments in yourself. And as you make more money, you can pay back those loans and then collect the difference infinitely. So I'll go to just another demonstration of doing it by 8% per year and then 10% per year. Now, the reason why I put 10% on here is because this is the return that most people are looking for in their portfolios. And I'm not saying that that's not reasonable. That's a way of doing it, but it includes a lot of risk. When you try to get a 10% return on yourself, that's where you have more control, you have more say, and you're able to look for opportunities in which a certification, a course, additional education, continuing education would improve your value in the marketplace, where you have control over that, as opposed to a 10% earnings rate on your investment is something way outside of your control. So this is just, I'll go back to, let's just say the 6% mark, because this doing 10% gets you to $74 million over the course of time. This is the power of compounding, by the way, but we'll go back to just the 6% number. So looking at just a few smart moves, strategic moves, where you maximize upside, but also minimize downside, has been demonstrated here. Hopefully you guys have learned something. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of resources in the description that teach you about the wealth maximization account. There's also a link to buy the book inside the description. So hopefully you guys go there, and hopefully you continue to learn more about ways in which you can improve your financial life and start setting a course for financial independence. That's it for today. Talk to you next time. Bye.